Hi, I'm Mary Miele. Welcome to the Evolved Education Podcast. Today, I have such a treat for you, which is that I am interviewing a former student. I'm so excited to have her here because I am so excited to give you, a parent, an inside look into what the heck is happening between your tutor and your student, and to help you understand the mindset of what your child might be going through as someone who needs tutoring. I worked with Jolie right at the beginning of my career as a tutor, and now it's crazy, but she's an adult out in the world with a job, and guess what? She still uses some of the skills I taught her. That's why I'm excited for you to hear this conversation and taking some time to remember that what your child is learning today is important, and who they're learning from is also important. So enjoy. Hello, my name is Mary Miele. I am a tutor, a teacher, a parent, and the founder of Evolved Education Company. We are a full-service tutoring and advisement company for all of your educational solutions. On this podcast, we'll explore ideas, techniques, and resources that you can use to support your school-aged child to conquer any learning issue. I'm so glad you're here. So I'm here with Jolie Winnick, who I worked with many, many years ago now in the start of all of my tutoring work that I was doing. And I'm so excited to see you today and just to chat with you a little bit about the work that we did so long ago. And I'd love to just know a little bit about it and sort of what it did for you. And then we can kind of talk a little bit about, about the evolution of everything, because it was certainly, you are so impactful to me because I learned so much about my work and what I wanted to be doing. So it's so exciting to see you today. So I'm going to start off just by allowing you to introduce yourself and just like what you're up to right now. And then I'll get to the next question.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'm Jolie. I work at a media agency on the Loreal account. Essentially, we plan advertisements throughout the year for Loreal, managing their media budget and planning it across all channels, including TV, social, Hulu, everything, you name it, you see an ad, and we are basically behind it all.
So exciting. It's like real work. Amazing. So I was just wondering if you recalled sort of when we started working together and sort of what was the catalyst that brought me to your life. Do you kind of remember when that was?
Yeah, so I was in ninth grade. I remember I met with so many tutors before Mary, and I was like, Mom, I'm not clicking with anyone. Like, it's so hard to find the right tutor, especially when you're struggling in school and you need that support outside of school to help you maintain that balance. I was mainly struggling with critical thinking. I couldn't really understand but why, how come, those type of questions that the teachers were asking, and how do I interpret those questions at home when I'm not with the teacher being able to walk me through it. And I remember, like, especially in history classes, that I was like, okay, like I can look at the pages and I can understand, but it's not clicking. And how do I remember this? And how can I not just leave the question blank that I don't understand it and hope that the teacher won't come back to me and be like, okay, like you left this question blank, but why didn't you answer it? And it was like, because I didn't know the answer, so I left it blank.
Right.
So I think that was the biggest thing for me, was basically understanding the question that the teacher was asking and being able to interpret it myself to be able to answer that. Because if I was in the classroom, I could go to as many office hours with my teachers, but they weren't able to connect with me the same way that you were, being able to be like, okay, we can break this down, and we can be able to have that answer by being like, okay, like this is in the book and it's really straightforward, but you have to be able to develop those skills to be able to get to that point.
Right. I remember that really well. And I sort of remember coming in and I felt like you also like had an emotional, disconnection to the work too. It felt like I felt you when I came in, like you were sort of just unenamored with the work and sort of feeling like this was just all kind of unsuccessful. And it was like, but, I think at that point you weren't really sure how it could be different. Am I right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think also just with like subjects with like history and English, I loved math because there was only like one answer, as opposed to something like history and English. There was multiple answers that you could come up with, and it was more developing that like concrete thinking to be able to come up with that answer.
Right, exactly. And I felt like as soon as I understood, like I spend a lot of time asking you questions, because I remember coming in and I was sort of confused as to what you were struggling with too, because I think a lot of times the way you described it now was so clear, but I think teachers could see it as just you not having reading comprehension, right? Or just not studying enough or not putting forth effort or something, right? And so I just remember being really curious for a while in terms of, well, there's something here that you don't know. You don't know. Like there was something about what you were going through that made me realize that you were putting forth a lot of effort and you really wanted to do like your best work. And I picked that up so quickly. And then I was just thinking about, well, what is at play here? And it was the first time I had really started to be really curious about your experience, like as a student. And it was very, very interesting on my end to like, think about it. So, when you were going through all of this, like you mentioned that you had a connection and I was connecting with you. Can you talk a little bit more about like what that was like for you and how come that ended up helping you?
Definitely. I feel like when we would meet in this room, we would very much focus on like breaking up the questions and being like, okay, like this seems like a paragraph question, but it's not really. There's so much information in that question that we can just right off the bat cross off. It's irrelevant to the question, and the teacher is really trying to just throw all this information, but really it's not all relevant. So basically seeing like, okay, what is the question asking? Are there any previous questions that were asked on the page prior that could help us answer that question, to use that, or even like keywords in the textbook or something that had that question, and where being able to find that, but also developing the skills to do it independently and not just doing it together, but being that you would leave me with the skills that, okay, what if I have to do this assignment tomorrow in class? How can I break it up myself? And I remember we would use infinite amount of color coding and being able to make it fun in that aspect too.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. We had so much fun with pens. Do you remember? Oh my gosh,
I still have all those pens, but trying to make it fun in that aspect and not just being like, oh, this is tutoring and it shouldn't be fun, but having like the colors and things to make it fun. And I remember you were like, you can ask permission to use your colors on the tests in class.
Yes. Because you had such joy actually when we worked together. That was something I so enjoyed. And I remember when I figured out that the pens were really something that enamored you, I remember just thinking like, great, let's do this as much as possible. And it was really the start of when I figured out that when you work with students who are struggling with anything, you're always looking towards what brings them joy and what part of their lives as students can be fun. And even in a challenge, like we can find some fun to have, right? And so I really learned that from you. And I remember taking that experience. And as soon as I finished with you, or even at the same time as I was working with you, I was going into other homes and experimenting really with students and thinking, well, like what lights this kid up? Like what makes this exciting? And how can we make this so much more interesting, right? And I think the colors for you also just spoke to you in a comprehension sense too. Like it allowed your brain to differentiate, like you were saying, some of this information is relevant to the question and some of it isn't. And when you were able to color code, you could really see it like pop on the page, and then your eyes were able to really focus on what you had to. And so it worked for a number of reasons. It was like such a great tool for you. Did you use it later, like when you left high school?
Definitely in college all the time. When I was studying for a test, like if it was like vocab words, I was a psychology major. So like a lot of vocabulary words and basically just writing them out. And then I felt like I could use my memory on the test and I'd be like, okay, like what was that word in pink that was on the page and being able to kind of visualize it there was very helpful. But everyone tried to copy me and always stealing my color pens too.
Totally. That makes good sense. I love when an idea like that takes on more meaning for more people. That's really fun. So I also, wonder if when you were working with me, something else that kind of came to mind was just bringing to light the fact that you were really capable and that this was an instance that was actually really challenging for real. It really was challenging. But as you learn to tackle it in successful ways, I think you learned also, because I remember really explicitly pointing it out to you multiple times, like, do you realize I kind of did nothing here? Like I was just sitting here kind of so psyched to be with you, but I was trying to show you how capable you were in like coaching you. And I felt like I had come to some other piece here, which was just that a lot of times when we're students and we're told that we're not doing enough or we're getting feedback that's negative, it can be very helpful to realize that, from another person who has another perspective on us, right? That we are very capable. And I guess I just kind of wonder what your experience with that was, because I remember really thinking about that and how much I was so glad to be there with you and give you that feedback. And yeah, I was just wondering what that impact was for you.
No, definitely. I think having you there as support and being able to like reinforce that and being able to tell me that I was capable was definitely a huge aspect of that, being that it was hard to believe in yourself when you would be getting these exams and not doing as well, even though you were putting in more hours than the A student in the class, but you weren't showing that on paper and you were doing all the things everyone was saying, meeting with the teachers and doing what was expected of you, but not getting the results was really challenging. But I think being able to, after each session, being like coming out of a session with you, being very confident and being like, okay, like I really understood this. Like, how can I apply this next time? Like if it was a test that I got back and the teacher will ask the same questions on the test next time, it'll just be different concepts. So how can I use their wording time so I'm better prepared? And being able to prepare for the typical teacher, because every teacher is so different.
Right. Oh yeah. Every teacher is so different. I know that's a totally another podcast. It's like knowing your teacher avatar is so helpful. That's something else I learned. Oh my goodness. Well, I really just, wanted to, thank you also for all that you brought to my career, because I really did learn a lot from our work together. And you were so open and just available for everything that we were trying out. It was really, and honestly, all these years later, when I tutor kids, I mean, it is a lot of experimentation still. So sometimes we're just like trying on different types of, solutions and seeing what really sticks. And the kids that are kind of more open to trying something on and parents who are willing to kind of go down that road are certainly eventually meeting that success, right? So I guess what I'm wondering now as we kind of close this conversation up is just, is there anything that you are taking now from that experience? Like, do you feel like, now that you're so many years later and, you're working now, you're doing everything that we were all dreaming about back in the day, right? What do you feel about having that opportunity to have that support at such a crucial time? And can you kind of speak to anyone who's listening, who's wondering, should I be investing in this kind of support for my kid? What is that going to mean for my kid? And I'd love to hear from you on that.
Definitely. So I think having that experience early on is so important because it builds those skills at such a young age and being able to build upon them as you get older. And like I was talking about before about like breaking things down, I still do that at work. Like I'll get an assignment and I'll be like, okay, like this looks like a huge assignment, but okay, like let's look at it and then let's step back at it and be like, okay, I need to look at this with fresh eyes. Like this assignment's done for the day. I'm going to look at it again tomorrow. And then when you're looking at it tomorrow, you're saying, okay, what questions do I have before I begin this assignment or while I'm working on it? And then something that I've really been trying to do for myself is, okay, I have a question for this assignment, but how can I explain my question, being that I tried to figure it out? What is my thought process behind it? Being that I might know the answer, but this is the thought process that I went to try to figure it out. And now I'm stuck and now I need help. And that it's okay to ask for help because you're not going to know the answers to everything. And that's something that I learned with you, that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to go for office hours and whatever, because people aren't expecting you to know all the answers. You're just not. So I think that's the biggest thing, and just being patient, and that you're not always going to get something the first time, that things are going to take time, and just being patient with yourself and knowing that things will come together.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you really owned a lot of those skills. And that was my real hope. I remember really thinking carefully about how much I wanted the tutoring to become a transferable situation, right? And I think a lot of my mentors in the field at that time were really coming at things, in tutoring at least, where they were just kind of coming in and like helping a kid along. It was like a lot of just assistance with the material or just reteaching or something like that. And I was like very curious about delivering these like skills and approaches that you would be able to take and action like for the long term, right? And so I've definitely built on that. And I don't know that I would do anything different with you, honestly, at that point. I mean, I'd probably be more confident with it. I think at the time I was feeling very new with everything. But I think at the point where we left off, I was realizing, the impact. And I just sort of took that experience and continue to develop it right over time, which I think has been really, really positive. So, well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and just treating me with your presence on this podcast that I'm developing. And I really appreciate everything that you brought here today. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for listening to Evolved Education. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and write a review. You can send us any and all educational questions to hello@evolveded.com, and we'll try to address it in our upcoming episodes. That's evolveded, evolveded.com. To learn more about how we can support you, go to evolveded.com and book a complimentary 15-minute phone call with us. Are you a professional educator? You can join our teaching school membership platform to gain support and engage in a community interested in learning together. Click on the link in our show notes to learn more.